Hello, 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 and welcome to the College of Creation. My name is Dan.
And my name is Michael.
And we are Dungeons & Dragons DMs who love to homebrew items, spells, creatures, and features for D&D. And this is a show where we make brand new homebrew every single episode based on prompts that we get from our listeners. How are you today, Michael?
I'm doing really well. Love this prompt. It's beautiful weather here in Toledo.
Yes.
And I'm having a good day, man. How are you?
Yeah. Doing okay. Also having some lovely weather, although it looks like maybe some rain clouds on the horizon, but that's not the end of the world. Rain isn't terrible.
Right.
We need it to clear some of the pollen. My goodness.
That is true. I'm not a big allergy person, but my wife is, and she has been struggling. She has been so upset the last couple days.
Rough stuff, but hey, spring has sprung, and that's not a bad thing, you know?
Right. Yeah.
A new day has dawned, and we have a new prompt here on the table. And this week, we were asked to make a dubstep subclass. Dubstep, the now, I guess I don't want to say out of favor entirely, but certainly a little bit of a more old school EDM style at this point.
It has kind of been relegated to the fringe of the electronic scene, that is for sure.
Heavy glitch sort of EDM is much more popular these days, but you know, a lot of people still very, very soft spot for the heavy distortion, those like highly affected sounds of dubstep and the overwhelming walls of sound therein. So this was an interesting one.
Yeah, I agree. We talked maybe a little bit at the end of last episode how a bard seems to be the kind of default way to go here. And it was interesting to navigate the class selection for me this week. Maybe just out of my yearning to not go down the most obvious path. The ease with which I avoided bard maybe surprised me a little bit. I feel like the idea that I ended up going with would not fit bard at all. And it just seemed like the idea that music subclass should belong to bard because music just had no place in the conversation for me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't even think about bard once.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I ended up feeling like I was, you know, really trying to avoid something that felt like a bard. At a certain point, I had a strong enough sort of concept that I agree with you. You know, bard was just sort of out of the question.
Yeah.
Honestly, even from the jump, I was like, I don't really actually think a bard works as well for the kind of vibe that I wanted to go for.
Sure.
In actual fact. I considered barbarian for a while, but
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I went a different direction, but I also considered that.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. Very interesting to deal with something that's very sonic, or you know, very much based around this like cacophony of sound and things like that, and distortion and all of that stuff. And it made me realize how. I didn't actually get around to it, but I would really like to, when going back to this, is actually homebrew some spells to go along with my creation.
Interesting.
There aren't as many things that I would like when it comes to things that have really explicit use of sound or even music within the spell casting. And I think that would be really cool. So I might go back and do some like musical spells or something like that. To fit into the build here. Because, I can talk about it when I get into my creation, but definitely ran into a couple of roadblocks when just coming up with just like less options than I would have wanted there to be for that sort of spell.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like maybe there is a hole in the game there that isn't talked about quite that much. Maybe just because it's not that important to a lot of people. But when thinking about it from this perspective, it does really seem lacking.
This is also maybe an interesting time to get into kind of a complex question in the D&D universe more broadly, I guess, is the idea of verbal components specifically,
Yeah.
and especially how that might function with a character who is maybe nonverbal, um, and what that kind of can look like. And
Sure.
I think there are many more like rules as written, or like hyper originalist DMs who interpret that in a really specific and literal way. That's like, if you are playing a character that for one reason or another does not speak, then like you can't cast verbal spells.
Right.
And like, I think there is something fair about that, but I also think it's interesting to think of unique ways for how that can actually manifest. Like, how can you actually make something make sound but not necessarily be vocal? There's a book series that a necromancer uses bells for various things, and that's kind of a cool thing. I thought of like also uh, a kind of apparatus that would require like maybe for something like an artifice or something like that, could have an apparatus that like requires rhythmic clicking or tapping along a
Yeah. Yeah.
structure
Yeah.
and something like that to create sound.
Mm-hmm.
um
They got a lot of
uh
Eastern
you know
music utilizes like finger tapping and
Yeah, like finger tapping, rhythmic tapping kind of thing. I think especially for like a bard, it can be cool to like say, your spell casting or the verbal component, quote unquote, could be, something musical, like similar to
Mm-hmm.
the Ocarina of Time, for example, like that the sound of a flute is manifesting the thing, and that can be a fun way to make it, verbal components esque. A player in one of my games right now, we've made thieves cant into a like sign language
Nice.
or near sign language kind of thing, and she's really leaned into that as like the primary way that her character communicates, and is like mostly nonverbal, but like is doing sign language to communicate for the most part. But so I think that um, it definitely behooves us as DMs to think outside of the box a little bit and think of new ways to approach those questions, like what is somatic, what is verbal, what are we allowing for material components, or whatever else it is. I think it could be really, really neat to hear even more, unique options about that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And that's just a case of taking the limits off of your players too, giving them free reign to figure out whatever they want their character to be able to do, because mechanically it's not changing anything for me as the runner of the game. If you want to use handbells, great. Just tell me what feels the best for you as a character and seems to make the most sense. As long as it makes a sound of some kind, as long as there is a way to take it away,
Right, for things, yeah.
then go wild. Yeah,
For
subtle
things
spell,
like
things like
subtle
silence can
spells,
still
etc.
affect
Yeah,
those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
Make it affectable.
Yeah.
And other than that, I have no requirements.
Cool with me. Cool with me. Yeah. So, yeah. Shall we get into it, Michael? Shall
I
we
think so.
start to
I
talk
think
through what
so.
our creations are for the day?
Yeah,
Yeah. I believe that I presented first last time, so why don't we talk about
you did.
your subclass?
Yeah, so I had a pretty extensive thought process this time around. I thought maybe I would focus around the like a specific element of dubstep. I thought maybe like a bridge into a drop would be cool for a like an AOE spellcaster, maybe a wizard or a sorcerer, siphon damage away. So you just like you keep casting spells and you just take damage. You siphon damage off of your own spells to add it to future spells, to kind of build up to like big damage further down the line. I think that there was legs there. I just couldn't figure out which class it would work best for, or really how to make it feel how I wanted it to feel. So I tabled that. I put it into my document of ideas to return to later. I also thought about an actual like dubstep artist. I thought about maybe an artificer using like
sure.
an actual deck and
That'd
having like sound based technology that emits sound, and like playing with the deafened condition possibly, or like moving people around the battlefield with sound waves. I thought that might be cool, but I ended up not doing either of those things. As I started looking more into the roots of dubstep, because I have very limited experience with dubstep, but I listened to a lot of it. I listened to a lot of it trying to figure out what I wanted to do for this, and it led me down the rabbit hole of how and why it started. And really,
I love that.
It's a combination of two kind of classic styles of music, which is British two-step garage, a consistent bass, 4 on the floor pattern, kind of unpredictable snares and hi-hats. The other source is like reggae. There's a lineage through reggae, a style of music called dub, which is just sampling and reusing and enhancing either snippets of other songs or sound effects or sound clips, which we see in things like Hide Your Kids, Hide Your Wife, right? That was dubstepified within seconds of that poor guy being on the news that one time in like 2008 or whenever it was. So I really started focusing on those two elements. And that got me to this. So if you would please open up your document. I kind of begrudgingly called this the Unsettler. It started as more of an offensive thing. I don't think it really fits that name anymore. I'd like to change it, but I don't know what to change it to. This is a rogue subclass. I tried to find something with a big enough damage pool to split into smaller parts. So I also considered Barbarian for a while. I considered possibly a Cleric, possibly a Paladin if we use smites. But I landed on Rogue because sneak attack can get pretty dang big. So this is the Unsettler. The world is rich with noise, both pleasant and jarring. You are acutely in tune with the natural vibrations of the environments around you, weaving in and out of them masterfully and picking up on the slightest inaccuracies. So we start at level 3. With the crux of the subclass, this is called the Frequency Sphere. You exist within an invisible, intangible, and inaudible frequency sphere, reverberating with sound waves and vibrations. The radius of your frequency sphere equals 10 times your proficiency bonus, centered on you. You gain the following benefits. Within the sphere, you have tremor sense and can pinpoint the location of creatures moving through the air, which is an exception to tremor sense in the rules. So anywhere in the sphere around you, starting at 20 feet at level 3 and moving up from there, you just have a sense of what's moving in your area.
Cool.
Also, you make perception and investigation checks at advantage, and you cannot be deafened.
Okay.
Also at level 3, you gain the damage dub feature. So this is the first half of the foundation of dubstep.
Great.
You can draw energy from outside sources to bolster your attacks. Whenever you take damage, you can sample 1d6 of that damage type with no action required and add it to your next sneak attack. This damage increases as you gain rogue levels, changing to 2d6 at 9th level, 3d6 at 17th level. The damage dice sampled with this feature can only be added to your next sneak attack, and they elapse after they're applied. You complete a long rest, you fall unconscious, or if you use this feature again.
Gotcha.
So, just a way to pick up a few extra d6 with maybe a damage type that you could not otherwise put back out.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. A little like echo
Yeah.
Just a reduplication kind of thing. That's fun.
Yeah,
I like that.
You're dubbing it.
Yeah.
At level 9, you gain the Royal of Battle feature. You've learned to throw your enemies off rhythm in combat by striking from multiple directions. You can use the following new Cunning Strike effect. I call this Subdivide. When you hit another creature with your sneak attack, you can choose to only deal half of the damage rolled. At any point before the beginning of your next turn, you can deal the remainder of your sneak attack damage to a different creature you can see or sense within your frequency sphere. This must take place immediately following the second target creature's turn, and it is considered thunder damage.
Cool.
If you have damage dice readied through your damage dub feature, you can choose to apply their damage type in any way you'd like and on either half of the damage dealt.
Okay.
So, you can do less damage now, and then the rest of it, you just split it off to a different creature, and it's loud.
Yeah.
And it's thunder damage.
And fun.
Yeah.
I like that.
Thank you. Down at level 13, you gain the innate tempo feature. You move through the world nonplussed, always focused and constantly regulating your energy output. You are immune to any spell, feature, or magical effect that would reduce your movement speed, ability scores, or armor class. You are
nice.
Totally zen. You are in the pocket. You're flowing with your own tempo, right?
Yeah. Notably, does that mean that you also would not be able to be affected by like the haste spell?
You could get a bonus. It's
reduced. Yes.
To
okay. Yep.
any effect that reduces those things. So you can boost them for sure.
Yeah.
In addition, whenever a creature that possesses an audible sign of life, such as a beating heart, a clicking set of gears, rattling lungs, etc., anytime a creature like that is within your frequency sphere, you can see faint pulses of light emitting from its body.
Okay.
So even if it's not moving and not triggering your tremor sense, you now have a little, almost like fairy fire.
Yeah.
But always triggering, always there within your sphere.
Yeah, things just can't really be invisible against you at all.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Moving down to level 17, the capstone. This is called Blast Beat. You can align your frequencies with those of an ally. Once per round, if a friendly creature within your frequency sphere uses the attack action, you can use your reaction to make one attack against the same target. If this results in a sneak attack, your Subdivide Cunning Strike does not cost 1d6 and can be used anytime before the end of the next full round of combat.
Okay.
This feature can be used a number of times equal to your dexterity modifier, and you regain all expended uses after a long rest. This is a duplicate feature. This was the capstone of the Burger Rogue.
That's right, yeah.
And at the end of that episode, you said, man, that'd be a great feature if you took it off of this and put it into something that was actually viable. And here we are. The Burger Rogue will live in infamy forever in my mind, but its capstone is now going to a much better foundation.
It's a good feature.
Yeah.
Like, just the option to like use your reaction to target the same creature as another ally, which almost certainly would trigger your sneak attack. You would assume for the most part that like that is you're going to use this when your melee ally is nearby, and you can use that. And your like emanation radius is pretty big at this point, so like that's pretty cool. You've got quite a lot of space to play with in that, and I think that's very, very fun and cool. And so like that's a ton of damage off turn. That like, I mean that's upping your rogue DPS significantly by giving them a second option for a sneak attack. Basically every round, almost every single round. So that's huge and very cool. I like it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, ideally this would be, and you know, how many campaigns get up to level 17?
Yeah.
Well, that's a limiting factor for sure. But, you know, if you are a lucky player that gets into a situation where your party is at 17 or higher, this is like 4 significant attacks on 3 separate creatures over the course of a round and change, that can like overlap with the stipulation of the end of the round, as opposed to before your next turn.
Mm-hmm.
It might actually be too strong. I don't know, but you're gods by level 17, so maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah.
Rogues don't get extra attacks, so this is leveling the playing field, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's fun. I think it's cool. It just seems like it would work pretty well.
Oh,
I
thanks.
like the idea of the rogue being able to like spot out enemies, even if they're burrowing, even if they're
Mm-hmm.
invisible, even if they're like small and invisible and flying or whatever else. Like you can still kind of pinpoint that, and you can still get your shots off. You get that bonus of like a little bit of extra. It's not a ton of extra for the damage dub,
Right.
but it's enough to like make it feel a little bit more powerful, especially when you combine it with the blast beat feature and the subdivide kind of split out to be able to do multi-target stuff going on and all kinds of other stuff. I think that could be yeah, just seems like it's pretty nice clean design here, and I really appreciate that you did some research into the history of this
Yeah.
of the genre, because I mean the whole wide history of EDM genres and stuff like that is very fascinating to me.
Just pulling inspiration from so many different places that I think maybe someone who didn't take the time to look up origins would not assume inspiration would
Yeah,
come from, where it's like, oh, that's just dubstep. It just quote unquote just dubstep. It's just loud and kind of
just
erratic,
noise.
just noise. But it's so not.
No,
It's so not. Once you break it down to its parts, you can really start to hear like, oh yeah, that that does make sense that it comes from there, that it comes from over here. It's very cool stuff. Very cool stuff.
yeah, really neat, really neat. I love digging into that kind of stuff, and hearing the different evolutions and things, and you start to get very good at hearing like what is the
Mm-hmm.
difference between like UK hardstyle and drum and
Yeah, yeah.
bass and like uh, dubstep and dub and two step and house, and that's fun. Great, I like it. I like it.
Thank you, man. What about you? What did you come up with today?
I myself went in. I didn't do as much like digging into the actual, inspiration points or the sonic characteristics of dubstep as opposed to other styles of music.
A bit of
As
a
much
position swap for the two of us this week.
Indeed, I just kind of went with one of the first thoughts that I had around it was this like this concept that I don't even know where it came from originally, but especially I think when dubstep and some other genres were really having their heyday, festival circuit type stuff.
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
there was I think it was a meme or something like that that had a quality of like religious fervor to this, and that all of this was in service of the bass god, and like
Yeah.
that like really rumbling like deep feel it like
Yeah.
way down in the soles of your feet all the way up to the top of your head kind of feeling of the bass within your bones.
Mm-hmm.
Has this very interesting quality, and I just couldn't get that thought of the bass god out of my head. Played around with Warlock a little bit, but I decided no.
I was gonna say
We're making
Warlock.
this a cleric.
Yeah,
We're
Warlock
making
patron.
this. We're making this a cleric, though.
Oh,
I
okay.
almost did a Warlock patron, but just like the build wasn't feeling right, and so I went with a cleric. This is the
Lovely.
cleric who is in service of the base god.
The bass, yeah.
You serve the base god, the lord of throwing beats and high distortion, the scion of rising energy and furious musical drops. When the base god takes his place on the great festival stage of the multiverse, the light shows will be the things of legend. The dance parties will rage for generations, and the subwoofers will rise like monoliths over the people, and there will be no war. There will be no pain. There will be no thoughts. Only the bass.
Only the bass.
Takes over absolutely everything, and that really is the vibe of this subclass. It is just
Incredible.
bass all day long.
Sure.
As a cleric, you get your base god spells, you get your pre-prepared spells, We're going with blindness, deafness, with the assumption that you're probably mostly using deafness because of other reasons, but blindness is still available to you because light shows and like crazy neon wackiness is definitely part of it.
Strobes exist for sure.
Pyrotechnics is there for exactly that reason. Thunderwave, of course. And then the spell Delay.
Nice.
Then at level 5, you get a Cacophonic Shield or Cacophonic Shield, which is a newer spell that a player of mine has taken, and it is a wild experience, that spell. I would encourage you all to read it if you haven't. It's a trip. And then we also have Thunderstep. We have Confusion and Elemental Bane at 7th level. These are a couple of the ones that I was like, I really wish there was a better option here. So I might homebrew something for the 7th level. That is to say the 4th level spell granted for this subclass. And then at 9th level, Destructive Wave. And then Jalarzi Storm of Radiance, which it creates an area where like creatures inside of that area are deafened and can't use verbal components of spells, and also take radiant and thunder damage. Then we move to level 3. Your channel divinity option for this is the Drop. As a bonus action, you can expend a use of your channel divinity to begin a rising buildup. So you create a 10-foot emanation centered on yourself, which requires concentration as though you were concentrating on a spell. At the start of each subsequent turn, the emanation expands by a further 10 feet to a maximum of 10 times your wisdom modifier. If you lose concentration or if you choose to end the effect at the end of your turn, a thunderous, distorted beat can be heard 200 feet away and explodes in the emanation. Each creature of your choice in the area must then make a Constitution saving throw or become deafened and stunned for 1 round per 10 feet of the emanation's range. So it just kind of continues for another however many rounds you kept it up in the first place. I think that is the feature that requires the most playtesting. Just like it's a timing thing, and like, are you going to get enough bang for your buck out of it in most combats? I don't know. Then you have level 3, Disruptive Distortion. As a magic action, you can target a creature within 60 feet of you that is concentrating on a spell or effect. The creature must immediately make a concentration saving throw with a DC equal to your cleric spell save DC, and you can use this feature a number of times equal to your wisdom modifier and regain all uses when you complete a long rest. So you can just trigger a concentration check. I think I might push that to a bonus action.
I think that's totally fair.
I will probably push that to a bonus action. It's not overwhelmingly powerful, I don't think. Obviously, it's a higher DC, and it will get higher the longer you go, so bonus action might be too much at later levels, but at lower levels, it doesn't quite feel strong enough, especially when we bring in level 6 feature, which is the base boost. Creatures have disadvantage on concentration saving throws against damage dealt by you or your Disruptive Distortion feature. Deafen everybody, end their concentration. Nobody can concentrate on anything. Nobody can hear anything except for the bass. Always.
All-consuming
bass. And then at level 17, we go to the Wall of Sound. The verbal components of your spellcasting becomes more potent. So you no longer need to use somatic or material components for your cleric spells if the material components do not have a gold cost. So all of your components become verbal, that is to say sonic only. Instead, your verbal components, or whatever components you're using in place of verbal components, the sonic component of your spell, can be heard up to 100 feet away, and each creature of your choice within 10 feet of you when you cast a cleric spell must make a Constitution saving throw or become deafened until the end of its next turn.
That's pretty sick.
And then additionally, deafened creatures have disadvantage on saving throws against your cleric spells.
Yeah. Take that salt, rub it right into the wound.
Deafen everybody, and then just go absolutely hog wild on it. If you can deafen everyone on the field, you have a much easier time taking them down. This is definitely a much more like damage and debuff focused cleric subclass, but you don't, sometimes you need those.
And it gives a nice new perspective for the cleric. There isn't a medic class or a doctor class that's only focused on healing, so cleric has kind of been moved into that slot, and I think that clouds the judgment, especially of newer players, that like clerics are only successful as war priests or, battle medics. You wear big armor and you heal everybody in your party. And that's so not the limit. Just look at the Grave Domain cleric. Not a healer at all. Like this is kind of in that same vein where it's not focused around healing at all. Certainly it can still do those things.
Yeah.
Every cleric can do those things, but that's not the purpose of the subclass. And I think we've talked, a little bit about how the cleric doesn't necessarily gain a lot of its substance from their subclass.
Yeah,
you
truly.
have to take a lot of the functionality from the base class, and a lot of that will likely have some healing element in there. But I think these features do a really good job of bridging that 6 to 17 gap.
Yeah, I like a cleric for exactly that reason. And you're right, it's a huge gap between features at this point because they have moved the typical, I think it was level 8 that you would get
Level
your
8,
divine
yeah.
strikes or your potent spell casting, and that was tied to your subclass previously, and they have moved it to a base class feature that you just choose when you reach that level. It leaves a gap in the subclass structure. It is a little bit tough then to make cleric subclasses feel like really strong in their identity with only the level 3 spell list, channel divinity, and additional feature kind of to go on. You have that level 6 feature to like bolster it, but like you have so little room to make it have its own identity. And honestly, that's true of all of the full caster classes at this point. When you're looking at the subclass breakdown, like bards, you only get 4 features, I think, generally.
Yeah, sorcerers are the only outlier. Yeah, sorcerers
are really
goes up to 18. Yeah,
they have the much larger run of subclass features. Although I think still generally only one or maybe 2 additional. But yeah, they have the benefit of sort of a mid-tier.
The spread is just wider. Yeah.
The one at 14 for sorcerer really like it makes it still feel like it's a much more natural progression, whereas like 6 to 17 is crazy. Like that's it needs to be such a crazy power jump. So it's a little challenging at times, but I did prefer this build to anything that I was doing with a warlock.
Yeah, I really enjoy this. Again, I was thinking about something maybe less sound based than this, more just like bridging power and then unleashing it as the idea of the drop. And I'm really happy that you went this direction, because I couldn't quite seal the deal. I at first, it was my first thought, like, I'm going to make a wizard or a sorcerer just slow burn up to a massive pool of damage. Couldn't get there. So I'm glad that you went the cacophony of sound route, because I certainly did not.
Yeah, I think that's a feature that maybe just needs some adjustment, because the idea is so good, right? You're like building over this long chunk of time, because that's always the thing about, like, especially I think the dubstep that came to the most prominence with Skrillex and that sort of thing was like it was so characterized by this idea of like these long drawn out build-ups that were like building the anticipation for the ultimate like epic sort of wall of sound drop that you were getting hit with, and you want to capture that concept.
Right. How do you distill that down into a subclass?
And how do you distill it down into a subclass while also like understanding that like most combats are going to go maybe 3 or 4 rounds,
right?
Like
how do you put that into a mechanic and not waste it?
Right.
Like you can start building it up and then combat is over and you're like, well,
right, exactly. You might not get to pull the trigger on it,
reducing my own damage for nothing.
Yeah. It's a little tricky. Like, I mean, maybe what you do is you like prep it on one turn and then it ends up going off on the end of your next turn. Yeah. And it's not as sort of much of a replication of the fantasy, but it might be just more effective. and then you up the power level a little bit so it feels like it's worth waiting for a full round to make it happen. So
yeah, love it, love it, love it, love it.
I like when we get the weird little prompts of like some sort of hyper specific, deeply non-fantasy coded idea.
And then you have to kind of navigate the question like, do I pull this subclass out of fantasy and make it more like the prompt, or do I try my best to integrate this prompt into how it would be applied to a fantasy setting? How do I take dubstep, a purely technological form of music, and put it into swords and sorcery and not make it a bard? And not just make it a bard that does dubstep.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, enjoyable. Michael, should we roll for the next prompt for our next episode?
Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. I am going to pull up our big old table of prompts. If you have a prompt that you'd like to listen to Dan and I talk about, like to have us craft on the show, you can send us an email to collegeofcreationpod@gmail.com. We would love to hear your prompts. If you don't have an email for some reason, you could always go over to the Patreon. That is patreon.com/collegeofcreationpod. Send us a message over there with your prompts. And while you're there, you can take a listen to all of the episodes we have recorded absolutely for free. See all of the PDFs of the things we've created. And while you're there, if you would like to subscribe at the $5 tier, you get a bunch of little extra things, playing games, talking about bad articles written about D&D, and much, much more. We would love to have you over there. Dan.
Yes.
If you would please roll on our table of prompts.
Great. Here we go. That is a 12, Michael.
A 12 is from DT McGee 84.
Okay.
This is another open prompt. This is something called the plug and play.
Plug and play.
The plug and play. It brings me immediately back to the days before video game downloads. I remember this is a core memory that I have. I was really young, probably second grade. My parents got my brother and I a GameCube for Christmas.
Ooh.
And it just like one of the coolest Christmas presents ever. And the idea back then was that you could just plug it in and play it immediately. Put the disc in, it worked automatically
right away.
And these days, whenever you buy a new game, you got to download it. Even if you buy a physical copy, it's got to download into your system.
It's going to download files and
yeah,
all this other stuff.
Also, just the idea of like at launch, things are not complete.
Oh, it's crazy.
A lot of gaming companies now will throw things out that are incomplete, knowing that they could patch it at any time because it's all internet based, so they can fix your game or make it worse. Whispers into microphone or make the game worse.
Truly insane
at any time. So if you buy a game at launch, it's almost guaranteed in the year of our Lord 2026 you're not getting a complete game. And I miss the plug and play days. I truly do.
Same, truly. I think for me, the things that I think of when I think of plug and play was also a core memory from my youth was they made, and they probably still make to some degree, but they were much more functional and sort of designed for older TVs, of course. They made these, little like multi-game sort of systems. It's not a console or anything like that.
Yeah.
But it's really just like, here's a box. It's got like a joystick on it, and it's got like 2 buttons. And you plug that straight into the like AV ports on your old TV. And we had one that was a SpongeBob. It's a set of SpongeBob games, and it's awesome. like there's a block breaker, and there's it had like really basic, super easy to code games. That's just like it's all SpongeBob themed, right? So it's like, it's not great content, but you can plug it in and play in that moment. Like the second you get it out of the box,
and easy to learn.
Plug it in the TV, done. You're playing immediately. So like that kind of thing, and then also us being both musicians, I think we also understand the idea of like when you are in a situation where like you don't need or have the time to like plug in your whole setup with like multiple effects and routes through and all of this other stuff. You're truly just like you get to the venue, you plug in and you play. That's it.
We're
like,
playing it raw. Yep.
You don't like there's not a sound guy. You are truly just like
what you get is what you get. No mixing, no effects,
there's
no
mixing. Like you're doing the bare minimum, and it's just plug and play.
Only the room sound for you folks tonight. So sorry.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, you know what?
I've played too many shows. Like
I have done my fair share of those.
I think the upside of those shows though is like nobody ever went to them.
Is that an upside?
I mean, maybe. Yeah, I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day. I play in a cover band now. I play very regularly, only covers of top 40 hits. You make good money and you get to go to cool places and play at parties, and it's very fun. But I do miss sometimes the allure of playing my own music. And playing original music, unfortunately, comes with a lot of plug and play scenarios, because you don't get booked at a Christmas party playing your own songs that nobody knows. So you play a lot of shows to just your girlfriend and your two friends in an empty bar with no sound man. Yeah.
So real. Wow, that's incredibly real. Perhaps too real. I think we need to cut it off at that point.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, Michael, what a joy, what a delight. And
absolutely.
Looking forward to whatever we come up with for the plug and play next time around. Will we go music? Will we go video games? Who knows? But stay tuned to find out, listeners. In the meantime, Michael, do you have anything to say to the people before we say goodbye?
I do have something very brief to say to the people before we say goodbye. A couple weeks ago, we clipped past 2 years on the show, and it's made me realize over the past couple of weeks, it's been a little bit too long since we just said thank you to the folks that are listening to us. I took a look for the first time for probably too long at the reviews that we've gotten, just ratings and things across different platforms, and they're much higher than they were that I remember them being the last time I checked. If this podcast was for you, please give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps us out. It seems like more people are doing it now than they were before, so thanks for that. I really appreciate that. But yeah, we would love it if the 50 minutes you spent listening to this podcast made you feel good or brightened your day. It certainly has brightened our day, getting to think about D&D on a regular basis. So thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for sharing with people you know. Makes us feel good about making the show and all of that stuff. So thanks for your kind words, your prompts, and everything else.
Indeed.
And thank you, Michael, for recording with me once again and creating with me once again.
Likewise.
Always a pleasure. Until next time, gang. Goodbye.
Goodbye.